Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our TIS webinar on bridging the data gap, addressing cargo crime challenges throughout collaborative TIS database. My name is Chris, and I'll be your host for today's session. We're excited to bring together such a fantastic group of industry professionals as we dive into the cargo crimes lack of data in the supply chain ecosystem. Before we jump in, let me give you a quick overview of TIS. The TAP-APAC Intelligence System, which is this, is a system designed to support supply chain companies using a collaborative database that can derive insights and support in risk assessment planning. This captures key details regarding an incident while excluding names, products, and company brands to maintain anonymity and use this data to provide suggestions and analysis to operational decision making. We will delve into this more in today's session. To kick things off, we're honored to have our chairman, Mr. Tony Lugg, with us to share a few opening remarks. Mr. Tony has been instrumental in leading TAP APAC to greater heights. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Tony Lugg.
Thank you very much, Chris. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining this webinar on our TAPA intelligence system. A big thank you to the speakers, just in case I don't get a chance to thank them at the end. And Chris, thank you very much for the opening and sort of short introduction on some of the key work that that I've done with TAPA and APAC. Just a little bit of background on the TIS. Originally, this product was actually IIS, which was the Incident Information System. And over the time, we decided to brand that as a TAPA brand because it was growing across the globe. We actually had a meeting with customs this morning, would you believe it? Sam Sher, who's on the line, Samantha, Yvonne, and myself went to see Singapore Customs, and we showed them the total number of crimes actually inside that database, which is over 220,000 incidents. So TAPA can boast to have the largest database across the globe of cargo crime. Now, what does it mean, for you? It means that you can share your data. So, as you saw during the poll, just before the webinar started, you saw confidentiality coming up, sharing of information, privacy, and these are all some of the complexities that exist within the exchange of data. And since the TIS has been set up, or the IIS-TIS, there has never ever been an allegation that somebody's brand or somebody's information has been leaked. All of the data that goes into the platform is completely sanitized. And sanitized because it's not about blame culture in the supply chain, it's about risk management, and that's what TAPA is all about. So you have my assurances that we have all the control measures in place that if your company reports the incidents, they will go in there anonymously. Not even your brand or your product numbers will exist in that database. Okay, so look, enough from me, because I want to pass you over now to people who are on the working group. So if you are interested in joining the TAPA TIS working group, please reach out to myself or one of the team, and we will send you the paperwork to do so. People who attend, the volunteers that actually attend these working groups, get the recognition for that at the end of the year. And those are, letters of attendance, for CDP points, or if you're on the program to become a TAPA certified specialist or expert, then all of those letters, supporting documentations go towards that. There is a minimum minimum attendance rate of 75%, and we do this on purpose to make sure that people are not nipping in and nipping out and just to get a certificate and go. It has to be a overall contribution to the working party, and don't forget the community as a whole, as well as your own self-development. So enough from me now. Thank you to all the working group. I'm glad to see that there's many on this call today, and there's many participating in the speech. Okay, so Chris, thank you very much, and I'll pass over to the rest of the team.
Thank you so much, Tony, for those words and for setting up the stage for today's discussion. Now, let's start off with our first topic. Leading this discussion is Dr. Shamsir bin Ali of Zwillig Pharma Holdings, a seasoned safety health and health environment professional, as he talks about the lack of data and why cargo crime data is scarce and why it matters. Dr. Shamsir, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much, Chris, for the introduction. Uh, Let me just share my screen to follow up on what will be shared. Yeah. Right. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Great. Now, now my topic today is basically talking about the lack of data and why cargo crime data is scarce and why it matters. Now, just to give a bit of overview, the executive summary of what I'm touching on, maybe first, of course, when we talk about resilience, we are looking at accuracy, we are looking at the data that is available, and with this accurate and timely data, we can actually develop our risk management, right? So in every organization, risk management is one of the main pillar to ensure that we have all these measures in place and to ensure that, you know, in terms of business continuity and so on, we have that resilience within our organization. Subsequently, I'm also going to touch on data gaps across the industries. Now, with these data gaps, of course, it leads to a lot of inefficiencies, whether there's loss and increased vulnerability to cargo crime, and subsequently how no platforms like TIS basically can improve data visibility, and with that data, we can actually use it to mitigate any risks. Just to give an overview on the TAPA intelligence system. Now, year to date, based on the data that is available, we can see that there is an average loss for all incidents, stating a value of euro um, 2 million, about 2,099,705, and we have also total loss indicated down there. And the number of incident that you see for this year itself, you can see there's a staggering incident level of 584. But of course, the data and all the information for this TAPA intelligence system is actually very useful for organizations to actually incorporate in their risk assessment on how to actually not put in the preventive or the control measures. Now, I'm referencing to a few other published data. So, for example, distribution of cargo theft, APEC, no, it was a data that was actually generated in 2019. It is being researched online, stating that no, there are significant number of cargo theft happening around the globe. And similarly, the same, if you look on the right side, this is coming from the Global Cargo Theft Trends 2023. So basically, again, the separation of different type of cargo thefts in 2023, it is actually quite overwhelming. Yeah, so it is important that we keep ourselves abreast with all this data and, you know, the demographic of how we are going to actually make sure that we have all the measures in place. Now, coming back to the point why cargo crime data is scarce in supply chain. I think one of the key areas that we need to look at is fragmented supply chain. Yeah, because in supply chain itself, it's not only one. We have different levels. We have manufacturers, transporters, regulators, and with that fragmented no organization or system, it causes inconsistent data sharing. There's not much alignment. Yeah, and then the other area is also regulatory barriers. I mean, earlier I saw in the, you know, people are posting, no, there are some regulatory barriers and so on so forth. Yeah, differences in different markets or country. right? In terms of their requirement or standards, that may cause a bit of challenge to share information on no, supply chain crimes and all that. And next is data silos. So we know that a lot of company, of course, they operate in silos, and with that, it also limits the data sharing across all the supply chain partners. So I'll move forward a bit fast because I've got 15 minutes. All right. So what are the consequences of data gaps in APAC supply chain? Firstly, with these data gaps, we can also see they might lead into operational deficiencies, inefficiencies, right? So because why, in terms of cargo crime happening, there'll be delayed responses. It does actually have financial and product losses in organization across Asia, right? And then it also can lead to supply chain vulnerabilities. So as we move on, no, with technology and all that, no, you can see there is a rise in cargo theft, no, rates across Southeast Asia, and focusing more on high value goods such as no pharmaceuticals and even electronics item. Now, and one of the greatest impact is also on financial losses based on no. We are looking at FMBs, pharmaceutical manufacturers, so they lose billions annually due to either spoilage, theft, counterfeit goods entering the supply chain. So these are some of the detrimental consequences or impact if, let's say, for example, there are data gaps. So how do we move along? Firstly, we need to address the data gaps, right? And we need to collaborate so that it can be a solution. So one of the key area is to have regional collaboration. And how do we do that? First and foremost, we have the right avenue or platform that we can actually collaborate. Now we do understand there are differences in regulatory requirement, but of course we look at how we are going to align and how we're going to share standards and information, and this will basically improve supply chain visibility in terms of all this cargo crime, right? And subsequently, I've always emphasized and advocate on this using technology as an enabler, whether you're using IoT or blockchain or even AI, with CCTV monitoring and so on, right? So by using technology, it will definitely assist in terms of how you're going to monitor, how you are going to actually incorporate in terms of the collaboration. And last but not least, the most important area is to have access to the TIS database, right? The TIS database is important because why? We can have data coming from across the region, no global, and you can actually, like I said, to integrate what data that you have already seen and integrate it so that you can have better risk management and resilience for your organization. So now touching on high-level solutions for APEC supply chains security, I think across all organization, we are always talking about data standardization, right? With this data standardization, everybody have the same consensus on what are the data that is needed, right? And it will also improve cross-border coordination and reporting globally. Yeah. Subsequently, we also look into end-to-end visibility, right? By using IoT-based either no temperature or condition sensor. These are some of the technology that can be used. For example, in FMB and pharmaceutical, we can actually look at not only in terms of counterfeit, all that. No, we can also look at product safety across international supply chain. And lastly, of course, to use blockchain technology to ensure traceability and authenticity. Of course, again, focusing more on pharmaceutical supply chain and counterfeit drugs. And these actually have a lot of major issues when we have all this in the market. Right. So this is my final thought. First and foremost, APEC supply chain resilience definitely rely on closing data gaps, and this can be done through collaboration and advanced technology. right? And some of the key issues such as cargo theft, counterfeit infiltration, and operational inefficiency. So these are some of the key issues that we need to address. And by having a standardized platform for all this information, of course, it will actually lead to better risk management and business continuity, right? And what are the effective solution? Of course, again, using technology, data standardization across the border, no, or cross-border coordination. Now, the last thing that I would like to highlight is, having a secure, efficient supply chain is definitely achievable. And with this innovation, inclusive of our platform, the TIS platform, we can always heighten our resilience. We can always improve on our risk assessment or risk management. And with that in mind, we can actually meet with what are the requirement and the modern market demands, right? So with that, I think I end my talk. If you have any questions, you can actually uh, send it to or put it inside the chat. Yeah. So Sam or Chris, back to you.
Thank you so much, Shamsir, for the great insights about the lack of cargo crime data and how this affects the supply chain industry. Now, moving on to our next topic, we'll be hearing from Chandramani Kumar Vatas of Maersk, where he will dive in more about data analytics and its application for risk management. Please welcome Chandramani Kumar Vatas.
Thank you, Jason, and team members, especially from TAPA and all the attendees. So, very warm welcome again. India is going through a lot of festivals. So, uh, this is something wherein we need to pitch in and right kind of framework so that we safeguard our supply chain entirely. So, I'll run through a few important pieces. Hope my slides are visible. Jason, can
Yes, we
somebody?
can see it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to discuss is like I've dwelled down a lot into data and insights. So I'll take you through. Then how do we use this TIS platform and the available data? How do we develop it further? How can we make it more actionable? Then how we can use the data, a specific data point by operational managers to mitigating risk that is very on a ground level, how they can improve their supply chain, reduce accidents and those pieces. And last, I'll delve through how by putting up the right data into this platform, how it is going to help all of us together. This is a piece which I have picked up from EU. The data ranges from 2000 to 2011. I have picked up a very different thoughts altogether so that it gives an insight to all our listeners to understand the gravity that what is being lost here. There is a file run. I'll take a break for a moment. I'll request other colleagues to answer the, okay, it is called off. Sorry. So first of all, look at the gravity of losses. It is approximately 6 to 7 billions annually. And this number is pretty much aligned with IRU and other global entities. So this is in European Union, just not in APAC. So you can consider despite having a better law enforcement and a structured approach, the amount of losses are very, very high. When you look at the cost of disruptions, which is usually not accounted or calculated anywhere, it is approximately 50 to 100 million US dollars. It's a huge loss. If we just look back, if we could save this money, probably the supply chain cost, which is close to 12 to 14, 15%, varies from country to country, it can be reduced drastically. Then average losses per trip, it's like it seems very less, approximately 6 to 7 euros, but still it's a amount of money, and you can count on the number of trips which are happening. And I believe lots of them, since only accidents are accounted, uh, and that too 30% accidents are not at all reported itself. So we can imagine the quantum of losses which is happening in every possible trip. When we look back, what all the mitigation measures organizations have? So only the large organizations which are available, like present in many countries or multinationals, they do in those organizations, even the 5 to 25% have got those crisis plans. And there are multiple elements of crisis plans, and those plans are not even foolproof. They do have different elements staggered differently. Where the most of the accidents are happening. So 61% of accidents, they are not happening inside the facilities. They are happening en route, temporary parking areas, temporary halt places, on highways, on connecting roads, and that's how it is going off. 30% of the thefts or those accidents are not at all reported. And this data is pretty much aligned with IRU also. And similar kind of statements have been issued in European Conference of Ministers, especially transports. Now, you look back at the table, which I have kept here. If you look at the table, you'll find the variations between 2004, 5. There are large variations, huge. This says, if you look back even 2005 to 6, I have blocked them in red circles. They are huge. It says that the data which is presented here is not perfect. And that's what it is guiding us to see, that our reporting needs to improve. The reporting quality needs to improve. So there are two pieces of reporting. One is quality, and that's where the inconsistency is seen in the data. And second is as much as that can be reported. So we still have 30% minimum, which is not at all reported. Now I'll go to the next slide. And I'll request to keep on powering the questions in chat so that we can take them at once we start with Q&A session. So when we drill down further, what we found, January is the month where we have the highest crime. When we looked at the week, we find Mondays and where we have maximum of crime. Why so? Still, the data quality is not so good so that we can fetch out the result that why it is happening so. On a lighter note, Saturdays and Sundays, we have least number of incidents. Probably those wrongdoers are also on leave. They're celebrating their weekends. Then the most targeted segment is consumer electronics. And that is quite understandable because they have got large values carrying with them. What is the most targeted piece is robbing a truck or a lorry on the road. And the reason is also pretty much clear. The law enforcement along the highways, they are huge in kilometers, and they fall across in millions. And the law enforcement across the highways are not structured that way that they can safeguard the lorries. There are multiple reasons, like having right parking places, safeguarded parking places where the amenities are available and which are cost effective. Then again, the same piece of accident statistics, 41% of incidents had happened during driving phase. 42% of them had been in vehicle parks. En route, it is like 35% of total losses. This is in monetary terms. Again, a very different perspective. 15% of incidents, the vehicle and goods both were targeted together. They would just not wanted the goods, they wanted the vehicle also. 15%, another aspect of the data which we drill down. Here, the attempt was with weapons, and they were trying to take out with force, a huge force, so that the drivers can't safeguard themselves. And the last piece here is like vehicles and their loads. They have been targeted in 63% of all of the total thefts. Now I'll move to our, again, database, collaborating with the other databases available across the world. So the 5% which we account in TAPA, IRU says that 10% of the cases wherein there are violent crimes, wherein the drivers are like they got a serious threat of their life and uh, multiple organ uh, sort of aspects. Again, a very unique aspect what we found is like 17% of the drivers reported that they have been robbed in last 5 years. And total of the drivers, they said that 30% of them have been robbed more than once. It is accounting just not twice, maybe thrice even. 21% of them have been physically assaulted in some or other way. What I'm trying to emphasize here is there are lot of things which needs to fed into the right data. We don't have the right data to project things appropriately. Again, what are the causes? Uh, what we realized during all this understanding and drill down of the data, that lot of things, lot of those thefts, crimes are going unreported. 30% of them is pretty sure is not reported at all. Uh, the value of items which are being reflected is only the loss of items. There are related costs which are not being reported. That is insurance, claims. A lot of them are not at all getting accounted anywhere. What there are multiple data sources which we are not even correlated, like what all insurance claim are being made, how they are getting correlated with the stolen goods value, and why it is not being done, because a lot of us have got a fear that the brand name will come into uh, uh, limelight, and that's where our chairman was saying that uh, at this platform we make sure that nothing goes except statics. Now, where we are today. So law enforcement, we are trying a big way to correlate things, to work more together, and a lot of us are trying to make it possible. Insurance data, which we are trying to again bring back, somehow correlate things. And this gaps are being everywhere. So we need to take a step forward to make things working together. Now, operational challenges, uh, difficulty in identifying high risk routes, stops. So my request, like if we report more, whether we are large or a smaller organization, we can collaborate better. And the data from rest of the world can help each one of us, specifically on that route, specifically on that stops and route planning specifically. Now, if we do together, work together more, we can reduce delays, disruptions, we can create more efficiencies. I spoke about the numbers already. Now, again, there are a lot of improvement which we can bring, which is a specific to a smaller businesses. Like we can improve on route planning, we can improve what in shortlisting right facilities, we can improve on securing the facilities which are already existing. We can't make a decision or we can't do something right away. We can take benefit of modus operandi of those crimes, and when we look at the trends, it is going to help us to prepare in a proactive manner. Perimeter security. Now I'm coming very specific to facilities, wherein how do we, if we know that this specific area, this location has got a challenge in terms of breaches in perimeter, we can improve big way. Uh, Something which is unreported is like untracked inventory. That's where we need to work. And if the data comes into, these are the data which is not available on big way on platform. So if it comes that these kind of losses are reported, like 5% loss or missing inventory or something, we can work together on a specific geography, and we can improve on inconsistent reporting. So I already spoke about quality and quantity of reporting as well. Financial challenges, uh, direct financial losses, we are reporting, but indirect, we are not. It is not coming here. So working more with insurance. Then what are the costs associated with manpower losses and how do we mitigate them and find a reputation? So anything which is coming on this platform will not come to a reputation of organization, but it will help us to work together. is something more important. Uh, some of the good practices, how we analyze breeds, but we need data to do that. And the data available which is with us on this platform can help us in terms of looking at how we need to protect ourselves better. Insider protection, that's something which have been big on cards to make it more actionable. And incident response planning. So this is something, if together we work, we can really make a difference together for the industry. Now coming to the priorities which we have. So we'll cover the priorities during question and answers as well. So here the investment technology, already we have an available technology. Here we can work together better. Uh, AI for data analytics, we have already started working on this. Collaboration, that's where we wanted all of us to come together and report more and more. Regulatory support, so already we have spoken about it. Something we need to work a little more is public awareness. That's where we all are trying to come together and more and do more together. So I'll rather say that it's something which make all of us success. So we'll take the questions at the end. Thank you, Jason. Back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Chandramani, for the detailed explanation and dissection of all of the cargo crimes that have happened in the past. It is true that we have a lot of incidents with a lot of percentages that being applied using different types of modus operandis. And it's very insightful that you have shared this with us. Now, opening the floor to our third speaker, which is Madhulo Khan, the Executive Director of TAPA APAC, as he guides us through leveraging this to address the challenges related to lack of data and cargo crime. Please welcome Madhulo Khan.
Thank you, Chris. Very good afternoon, good morning, and maybe good evening to those members watching from Australia, New Zealand. It's a pleasure to be back and get connected again on a forum. Thank you to the previous speakers. Obviously, the floor is set very well. And of course, thanks to our chairman, Tony Lugg. His message is very, very clear and crisp. You can also see the nuggets. It's been shared on the chat. Please go through that. There's a lot of information available. But what we are going to talk now is that we have seen from the last two speakers the challenges and the way we need to move forward. So what is critically missing is data and the quality of the data. It's not just data, it's the intelligence that we need. And that's what TAPA's intelligence system, TIS, provides, right? So when we look into TIS, let's move forward and see what does TIS offer us, right? Now, the incidents reported in the TIS tool tell us that about the thefts that's happening from the facility, which accounts for about 35 to 36% of the incidents reported. I just would like to take a moment here to address the relevance and importance of reporting into the system. As Tony rightly mentioned, that what contributes more to the community, to our community here, to get more value from the data and from the tool that we have is that the data that we report into it, the meaningful quality data that we report into it. So please, it's again a highly and encourage all of you to report the incidents that you come across with. And as rightly mentioned, your data privacy, your brand, everything is secure and taken care. So the tool, what we have is only as good as the data and the quality of data that is shared, right? So now if you look at the incidents that is happening, one of the modus operandi or the biggest modus operandi we would say is intrusion. That's about 27%, right? And we have seen in various news, various magazines, various articles that people adopt various mechanisms in various markets. There was one in Philippines where the crime syndicates came with machine guns and threatened the manufacturing facility with the security guards, and they just barged into it, and then they were able to steal and confiscate lots of valuable goods. So again, these kind of information that we have captured in the tool, in the system, which is an intelligent database because it's coming from the real sources. This data you will not get even in Google. Google is good for searching many things, but as Tony rightly mentioned, the database that we have is the largest database and a solid database that you will not get it anywhere else. So much so that in Europe, Even Europol uses our data. So that's the relevance, significance, and value of having this as a intelligence tool for your organizations to plan for your strategic investments in certain locations, your supply chain secured resilience. For everything, TAPA intelligence system works as an intelligence partner. I just want to quickly see if you all have gone through the platform. Maybe I'll take a second to see if we can access the platform. Here it is. Here we go. Please access the platform and see what we have inside. It's unbelievable amount of quality data that has been put into it. A lot of work has gone into it. And we have got sources, credible sources from where the data is collected. Now, in the platform, you could see that we are talking about some data insights, some collaborative information, etc., right? Now, I would strongly urge and recommend you all to start contributing and also accessing the information that way. The most important point is that we in TAPA APAC, under this particular team led by our able board and leadership of Tony and Matt Lee. Matt Lee is also here in the chat, he's a vice chairman. We got fantastic information with the team that we are collating, and we're able to generate reports. This is most important. Everybody is looking for credible information, trustworthy source. That's coming from TAPA Intelligence System. We are producing reports on a monthly basis, which we're sharing it to everyone. And we're also producing it on a quarterly basis, which we share. And if you're a member, you have some specific requirements, we're always encourage you to come join us, have a discussion. And even if you're not a member, not a problem. Feel free to use our system and see what it gives you as a benefit to your business. Joining the TIS working group is absolutely a pleasure because you will get lots of insights, tidbits, and information, and you can also contribute back to the community. So do not forget, TIS is going to be your best intelligence partner when it comes to getting data for your supply chain planning, especially when you want to diverse and expand in various markets. So once we have the challenges resolved, what we do is that from the system, when we know that the data is available, just we can see on the screen, the number of incidents reported is staggering, right? And this is again the incidents that has been reported into the system from various data sources. That's why we also encourage our members and our listeners here to contribute to that so that we can have a much more robust intelligence system. Now, if you look at that, the value, again, as mentioned by the earlier speakers, Shamsir, when he opened, he did share about the value that is lost because of the crime and incidents happening in the supply chain. And that all is absolutely true, which is all captured here. And even Chandramani has also mentioned in this particular slide, comparing the data from trusted sources, which is very true. So long story short, the data, what is being provided by TAPA's intelligence system, needs to be harnessed effectively. And that can happen when you contribute, when all of us contribute meaningfully, and we should continue contributing it and extract the information. The reports that we generate will definitely help you in terms of understanding the harsher aspects of the challenges that the supply chain industry faces, especially on the distribution side from the source to the destination. Now, there's one more information which I wanted to tell you about the TIS intelligence system. It is not only a database for crime, incidents, intelligence, etc. This is a very good tool where we in TAPA APAC also capture the certifications of our members. Okay, so for that, I would recommend you all to access the system and see that the certifications reflect. And this will help you to identify your right, trusted, certified partners. That's number one. Number two is that for the TAPA APAC members, the good news is that you are also in a position to see the data that is available in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, in the EMEA market too. So it is not just restricted to TAPA APAC, right? So you definitely, all of us have trade, export or import with EMEA, with Europe and with Africa, etc. This database helps you to identify and see what are all the warehouses, where are all the locations that are certified. So you may be in a good position to pick your certified partners. So use this tool, use the information, use the system that TAPA APAC is able to provide, get benefited, and I'm sure that we all will be in a right position to build a more secure and resilient supply chain. With that, I think I could close my points. If you have any other discussion points to be taken up, any questions you may have, please feel free to ask us in the chat, and we are here to give you clarity and help you and guide you to make your supply chain more resilient. Thank you so much. Over to you, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Madhu, for the detailed perspective of how this benefits the supply chain ecosystem and how this becomes a valuable tool in risk mitigation. And just a quick note also on the value from your previous slide that as of September 2024, we have already lost about $273 million due to reported crime, which was compared to what we had from last year. We have a total of $201 million from the total year. Because the reason for this is that we have been increasing our reported numbers of incidents from this year as compared to last year. So, regarding our next topic, our topic focuses on this as a collaborative database with law enforcement agencies and authorities. Mr. Verghese Tirumala of Maxitulin will expound and provide us more insights related to this topic. Please welcome Mr. Verghese.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure having everybody here. It's also been a great pleasure working with the TIS as a working member. We've been doing this for a while now. It's very interesting because data is the new petroleum. I'm not sure whether it's the new petroleum, it's the current petroleum. People are fighting over data. Now let me share my screen.
Now, while we wait for Mr. Verghese to share his screen, if you have any questions you would like to ask, please feel free to jot them down in the chat, and we will be answering this in our Q&A session in the last part of the webinar.
Okay, I guess you can see the screen.
Yes, Verghese, we can see it. Please click the percent so that it can be in full screen.
Yeah, I've actually gone into the full screen. I think let me just. Okay, doesn't matter. Let me just move on to this. Okay, I'm based in Malaysia, and we've been working closely. When I say we, JASCO is the Joint Action Security Council, a division of MICCI, which is the Malaysian International Chamber of Commerce and Industry, with the Malaysian Royal Malaysian Police, with in their HQ, and interestingly, with their task force, we've been able to together combat with SOPs, processes, and technology, the cargo crime of high value has significantly come down in Malaysia. So I'm just going to share with you how we have worked together. We have every quarterly, we have a meeting with the police cargo crime division. And in fact, next week we have another meeting. Now, basically, the cargo crime division actually gives us statistics, which MICCI actually converted and passes it to TAPA test team. So this is a typical layout, the hijacks and the warehouse robbery. I'll just move on. Now, if you look here, these are statistics that's available, the incidents count by countries. We will just narrow down to a country, let's say in this case, Malaysia. But also take note, if you notice at the bottom is Pakistan, which has only got one case, whereas India on the top has got 205 cases. It's all about reporting. So data collection and collating is very critical. Now, we've also got very interesting statistics on byproducts. All of us are in various different industries. If you look at the statistics, food and drinks constitute a higher percentage. So all of these information is available in TIS. I'm not going to go one by one, but let's again fine tune and narrow down. Okay, I'm going to focus a lot on the facility. Our previous speakers have spoken on the challenges in the trucking, in the telemetry side of it. But here, if you look, even Madhu had stated that about 36% happens in the facilities. So what are the challenges that we face, or what are the challenges the law enforcement agencies face? Okay, we have two scenarios in a warehouse scenario. Scenario one, the employee's direct involvement as per job description. What does that mean? The officer's action fall directly within their job responsibility. He's a warehouse officer who's got direct access to the goods and inventory. So when a crime or a suspicious activity is captured, the criminal investigation is done by the CID, as offenses are directly correlates to the officer's assigned duty. So this is a little more easier. We have a second scenario, indirect involvement outside job description. This is a big challenge for the law enforcement. You see, the officer's action fall outside their job responsibilities. They're not in the warehouse. The officer's role is like, procurement or administrative officer, who are typically involved in operations, but they're not inside the warehouse. In such cases, it is classified as a CBT, a criminal breach of trust, and is pursued as a civil case. Now, this is the challenge. When it's a civil case, we need to have documented proof to establish that the person was either present in the warehouse, also engaged in a collusion, or directly involved. So that is a big challenge. So this is something that we've been working very closely, and we are trying to find out how technology is going to help in easing this burden. Now, let's go again as the case study in Malaysia. We are focusing, of course, the telematics side is one thing. We're talking about the facilities. Now, in the facilities, what is the modus operandi? These are information advised by the LEAs. An intruder comes in wearing a mask. We all know security system or video surveillance is not be able to capture the face, so it becomes difficult. But the good point is technology is moving towards something called as a gate technology, where even the way you walk can trigger your identification. The next challenge is these bad characters come in and tie up the security guards. This has been very rampant, actually. We've seen this here in Malaysia and many parts of the world. What can one guard do against a few of them with weapons? The next way where normally the insider gets involved is manipulating and tampering recorders, cameras, power. We have cases whereby a warehouse power camera was switched off for 15 minutes and close to about $1 million goods were taken off. And then colluding and collaborating. This is a big challenge. How do you understand this? It's a very difficult process. But the good part is, technology has evolved. Physical security technology has evolved immensely with machine learning, artificial intelligence, computer vision. These can be used to help. So we're actually working with the LEAs, with the police, to see how to educate and get the owners to understand the importance of incorporating technology to the existing systems. Now, to summarize, TIS actually reports and identifies criminal activities in a region. You're getting good information. Now, the government enforcement agency are giving us guidance on the modus operandi. Many of us know. Those information are given. Now, it is up to the users or the buyers to use these two advices to improve and harden the physical security to monitor, track, and trace. You'll be amazed. See, basically, everybody uses technology. I'm going to ask you a simple question. What are you using your CCTV recording, video surveillance recording? It's only for forensic. Things have all changed now. So with these criminal activities and modus operandi, we can start hardening the perimeter, as our speaker said. The biggest challenge is along the perimeter, the guardhouses. So this is the message. Finally, remember, security is a profit enabler. Everybody complains security is a cost center. No. Imagine when an incident happens, the profit, the branding that affects. So with this, I like to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Verghese, for the insightful topic about LEA collaborations with this and how it really helps in strengthening our supply chain. Mr. Verghese has been an active participated member of VTIS working group and has contributed his insights and expertise to the embetterment of the working group. We thank you so much for your help throughout. Now for our Last topic, but not the least, is driven by Mr. Jasbinder Singh Kirpal Singh of Maersk as he walks us through on supply chain collaboration through data sharing. Please take it away, Mr. Jasbinder.
Yes, hello Chris, and good afternoon everybody. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, but I can't see my screen yet. All right. So I think we had a great speaker today. Thanks, putting the pressure to me to become the last speaker, because everyone have shared all the datas and so on. All right, so great presentation. No doubt, data is very, very important for all of us. And this is a platform that is helping us to capture all those information that we can use to further enhance our security protocol and so on. So I'm still having some issues seeing my slides. Wait a minute, let me see what's the problem here. Uh, all right. So okay. So let's okay. Okay, talking about overview of supply chain and the complexity, everybody's aware. I mean, how complex is supply chain? I mean, we are working with manufacturers, suppliers, LCP, and customers, and these are very important in our global supply chain. And as what my colleagues have mentioned about is data sharing. I mean, all those data that has been shared, it can also be a proactive measure to detect and to take preventive action immediately. All right. So the vision is to collect the intelligence throughout open data sharing to drive smarter and faster and more resilience. I lost my slide again. All right. And resilient supply chain. So, some issues. Slides. Chris, can you
No
help
worries,
me?
Jasbinder. Yes, I can share the screen for you.
Yeah, can you help me? I'm having some issues with my network over here.
All right, you may continue.
Apologies, everybody. Yeah. All right. So next slide, please. Okay. So data, I mean, basically is everybody knows that data is being pulled by the companies and not being shared in a larger network. And the transition of all this data that we can see is the route data, traffic patterns, delay due to the security risks and trends. And from those kind of high value products that we are storing and transporting, they are also being targeted by all these syndicates and all the contrabands that they want to smuggle and so on. So from all these security data that we have, we can basically have a faster response time, as what my colleagues have mentioned earlier, efficient route planning and stronger partnership across the chain, and to prevent loss of the products, time investigation, and so on. So as what I, from a local perspective or end user, so when we have those kind of data, so when we utilize the data to be shared to our transporter team or to our warehouse operation, so we will try to advise them what are the latest update that we have from this, so that they can plan accordingly. So on the local level, so the security department or the security managers use the platform basically to understand what are the current activities is happening in the regions. And again, not forget, another thing is to not forget, at the same time, our, I mean, the group of smugglers and syndicate, they are also open to this data. They also know what's happening in the market. All right. So it doesn't only comes to us, but they also know what they are doing. And also they have their own internal sharing. I hope they don't have a webinar that they talk about how to do smuggling, but they have their ways of understanding how to further enhance. And you can see from all those incidents, they are actually learning new ways of doing those kind of criminal activities. So from us, we also need to be on top of the game, to be proactive, to know what's happening, and then what are the current controls that we have in the site, as mentioned by Verghese earlier. So all the technology part will come in the picture based on those kind of data that has been shared. So this is a very good platform from me. I mean, I'm talking about from the end user, how we utilize those information to further enhancing our sites, our warehouses, transportation, depots, and so on. Okay, next slide, please, Chris. All right. So why is it is relevant to us? So is a data integration platform for tracking, monitoring, analytics. I think earlier the colleagues have already showed the website. I mean, Madhu have shown how we can access is in detail. So we have those information that is provided by all the partners from logistics and distribution and technology partners like Verghese, and they also have a solution. So the outcome is we will know what is the real time, what's happening throughout the sites, and also what are the latest modus operandi that is taking place by all these counterparts, so that we can immediately take actions. All right. So to prevent any delivery theft and emerging risk, and proactive decision is more of what I call to understand what are the limitations that we have and how to further enhance. And there was also another point talking about reliable source. This is a reliable source, as what all of you all know. TAPA is well known, and then the information that we get are from relevant sources, and is reliable. So I think the kind of analytic data that we have, a sample of the reporting that is being shared on quarter-to-quarter basis, is all in detail by region, category, what's happening, how is the modus operandi, what is the percentage, as what has been shared by earlier presenters. So all those information is very, very valuable. And as I mentioned earlier, data is power. So when you have data, you have power, and you need to use those data properly and correctly. All right. Next slide, please. So again, as what Verghese mentioned earlier, I'm also working together with Verghese. We are part of this MICCI local enforcement agency, which is the local police. We also work closely with the customs and port, where we have a lot of networking. So at the same time, we also receive those kind of data that's happening in the local country. And this can be a cross-reference. So we use those information to be cross-reference of what's happening in our neighboring countries. And also we have cross-border to Singapore, Thailand, and so on, what's happening in this kind of location, so that we can look into those trends and further advise to the relevant department and so on. And at the same time, we also have our internal session with the local management to share with them these are the situation that is happening in the neighboring situation, and also the source is coming from a local authority. So we have those numbers which Verghese shared earlier. I didn't want to put the same numbers here because Verghese was sharing those information earlier. So this actually shows some tremendous improvement from actual data that we have, and the outcome, the reduction of incident for this location has been improving. The next slide, please. So benefit, I mean, is no brainer. I mean, basically with this data, we can improve our efficiency, transparency, adaptability, modus operandi. We have hotspots. So in your locations, you have those hotspots where criminal target those activity. I mean, quiet zones, dark area, and so on, so that we can plan on our transportation part. And also, if you have any potential new warehouses being built, you can also use this information to be included in your risk assessment. And also to strengthening all the internal and external security protocols, because why? Normally we have only one security guard or two security guard in certain location, and the group of people comes in to rob is maybe more than 5. All right. So building customer trust with this kind of information, when we present to customer, we have reliable source to share during our discussion on security matters, and how do we do our risk assessment, and a reference from a reliable source to cross compare and so on. Next slide, please. Chris, change.
Yes, it's already changed.
It's not changing from my side.
Or maybe there's some internet issues. Hold on.
I think the last speaker is having a lot of challenges, yeah, to present compared to the earlier one.
Are you able to view it now?
So challenges, as what everybody knows, I also saw some of the questions being released, that they are very sensitive in sharing those information. Do not worry. I mean, more of a general statement of what happened, how happened, what is the estimate losses. We do not want those brands to be mentioned. Again, it's more of a information sharing. You can hide whatever you need to hide, and do not worry, because why, eventually we will know what went wrong in the market and so on, because it's a small world now with those social media. So again, use this platform, report as much as possible so that we know those information, and sharing is caring. So we have a proper platform in this that has given us what they call to ensure data privacy, and also all those information is encrypted. All right, and this will also promote calibration of culture over competition. As much as we want to make sure it's safe and secure for everybody, I understand the competition part, but this is more of a platform where you share those information for the good sake of everybody here. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned earlier, uh, encourage stakeholders to be a bit more of a collaborative, not just a primary resource, commitment to secure data sharing, as what everybody knows, call for stakeholders from all areas, logistics, supplier, distributor, to contribute actively, and networking with a local agency for a reliable source and updated information. All right, the next slide. So another part that I would like to mention here is the value added. So when you have a new site, when you have a new investment or new proposal or capex where you need to get approval, you can also use TIS to see what are the situation in certain location where you can benchmark what are the security practices across the location, and you can also enhance the operation resilience by using the insight of a global perspective. There are many similar platforms available similar to this. Even in my current company, we have a platform similar to this that we use to report all the security incident. And this will be a supplement. This will be a supplement to our current, as a reference, as from our MNCs or corporate companies, that we can use as a cross reference. So this will help us in getting more justification if you have certain projects or capex. Sometimes, again, like what Verghese mentioned, it's a cost. So whenever you go and ask for some capex improvement, they will talk about cost. So, but eventually, this is something that you are trying to prevent, and it is a profit to the company. So, this really help us to do some project investment and so on to justify to the management. And I have used this for this purpose, and I can show a reliable source to the local management to get those kind of funding. All right, next slide, please. So as a closing remark, I think for me, this is very helpful tool, and I would like to encourage all of you all to contribute and participate in this uh, platform to provide those information. And it's really networking session with all of you all to be open and more resilient in making sure the security of all the industries are well taken care. So that's all I have. Thank you, and apologies for the technical issues that I had. And have a great day. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jasbinder. Thank you for providing us with your insights and also how this has helped you in your supply chain operations. This has been very beneficial in hearing your thoughts regarding how this has helped and supported in your assessments. And strategies. Now, thank you also for all to our speakers. And now let's move on with our Q&A session. You can open the floor, and if you haven't submitted your question yet, please you may go ahead and do so in the chat so that our speakers can answer your questions. Okay, we have a question here from Lolita stating that data sharing is sensitive for our company's policy. What do TIS need and how we can also contribute or get the buy-in from the management?
Yeah, look, it's a very good question, right? Because it's a difficulty for everybody. If you speak to the in-house lawyer, they will tell you, "Oh, don't share data." I think the best way to, before you ask them about data sharing, is as soon as you say sharing data, everyone has a different sort of concept of what that is. And what I would suggest you do is that you show them what your data is, and it should literally be the date, the time, the location. If the location is your own location, then you can just use the area location. If it's a warehouse breaking or something of that nature, if it's a truck robbery, then that's different because you're not identifiable in that sense. What the particular issue was it a theft, a hijack, or something of that nature, and what the MO is, okay? The modus operandus. How was the crime, or how did the crime take place? Now, when you show them that data, which is sanitized, and then you show them the TIS tool, so I don't know if you can flick across, Chris, and just show some of the database. When you show the comparison between the two, the data is not identifiable. Now, when you go and present that to the management, then you have a different discussion. So you can see here, there's no identifiable data back to the company, the product, and things of that nature. And as I mentioned in the opening, nobody has ever tried to reverse engineer the data pool. In actual fact, the absolute majority, and I mean the absolute majority of members, don't even go into the database. The absolute majority of the members rely on TAPA producing the reports which they use internally. So, hope that's sort of giving you some ideas on how to do it. Also, look, I think if you're going to present this to management, ask us, we give you the screenshots, or go to the TIS tool and take the screenshots yourself. So you can show, look, this is what we want to report as part of the community, because everybody wants the data, as I just said a moment ago, but nobody wants to give it. And if we don't have that data sharing, remember, sharing came up at the beginning, privacy came up at the beginning, confidentiality came up. Everyone's hiding behind their own firewall or justification not to be part of the community, yet everybody wants to be part of the data that's available to the community, right? So we got to reverse the trend, and we got to do it by presenting it in a structured way that they can see that there's no risk. The sanitization of the data before it is sent to TAPA can be an internal process, okay? Can be shared internally to see whether everyone's happy with that data that's going to be uploaded into the database. Now, the other thing is that, don't forget, you can report anonymous data, meaning that, you can put in there and say, I want to report to anonymously. Your name will not be in a database. And I know several companies have done it because they want to, they think it's right to report things into the database. They're not breaching anything from a company because they're not publishing any company information. But what they're doing is just reporting an incident at a location, not identifying anyone. So that's another way that some members have done it. Any other pointers on that?
Yeah, let me just share something. We're all familiar with organized retail crime. It's called as the ORC in the US. Why the organized crime is thriving there? It's a simple reason: there's no data sharing. What is data sharing? You see, all organizations work in silos. I do not share my details to the other company. So this is what the bad characters know about it, and they're exploiting it. So So it's extremely important. We as the security practitioners have to come out, share information, get our senior management, board of directors to understand the importance. Like what Tony have just said, we don't tell the brands and the client and all that. That information is very critical. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Verghese, for adding in on that. And also, would like to ask your opinion on this, Dr. Shamsir, related to the to get the buy-in from the management.
I think it's ultimately important. Tony actually hit right on the target in terms of how he explained things. No, one thing that we need to understand, they are very careful to actually look at repetition. No? When you share information and all those things, repetition is of course the key things, right, to this. And rightly said, all the information the focus is to have more identifiable crimes related within this within the community or within the geography that is available. So my point of view on this is, I mean, we are still talking on basically the data, right? So now I'm actually stationed in Singapore, and we are also very focused on PDPA, Personal Data Protection Act. We are very focused on not sharing sensitive or critical information back to an organization or even to the individual. So for TIS, I think one of the key areas that when they actually have this platform is to focus on to make sure that there's transparency in the crime, but we also take care of we took care of to make sure that the reputation of those people who contribute is not being shared out there. So this is to make sure that they are all well taken care of. I hope this adds on to those other information that is being shared.
All right, thank you so much, Shamsir. We also have another question here. Bernard asked, how can small trucking company SMEs use this data in security strategy? We don't do much data analytics. This aligns well with the topic of Jasbinder. So if you could take this one, Jasbinder, thank you.
Sorry, Chris, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, the question is, how can small trucking company or SMEs use this data in security strategy? Because we don't do much data analytics as per Bernard.
Okay. Just to share how we do it here, we have our subcontractors that are working with us together. So we make sure the information that we have received from TIS or TIS is being shared accordingly. So that is how the bigger companies, we will collaborate with the smaller companies. And at the same time, they are also feeding us with the latest update, what's happening on the roads, talking about transportation. This is how the networking with all the transporter companies under our umbrella, so that we receive all those information and we upload those information on behalf of them into this. At the same time, we also share in case there's any potential risk in their journey, their cargoes, and making sure our customer products are safe always. So that's how we do it. All right. Another option is, I think, they should be a part of a TAPA member, which we can discuss further. Bagi Madhu and so on, they can take the lead on the small SMEs transporters. But that's how our bigger picture is sharing it.
Thank you so much for the insights, Mr. Jasbinder. Now we have
As well.
another. Yes, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. Sorry, come in on that as well, because look, I think it's another very good question. Look, as an SME, some of the SMEs want to grow and be an contractor for some of the larger MMCs. So, when you go to your MMC, if you show that you have a structured risk assessment process, you've already invested in your TSR level 3, that you're using the TIS data, right, to show that you complete your route planning, you know where all the incidents are occurring, and then of course you are able to adjust accordingly to that process. Now, that already puts you into a much higher league than most of the forwarders out there. So I would say to every SME, get on that ladder, start climbing in it, put all of these policies but processes in place. It will automatically improve your operational process. So hopefully that's answered the second part of your question.
Thank you so much, Tony, for adding in onto that answer for that question. We can have another question here, which is, which other law enforcement agencies are TIS working with now for data sharing or any future plans? I think Madhu can answer this one too.
Yeah, that's a good one too. As Tony rightly mentioned in the chat, you all can see that collaboration with LEA is a skill, and exchanging data is also very important for the benefit of both sides, so that we protect the society and the community. That's the intention. And the question is, where else do we cooperate? Just to share with you, in Australia, the the unspoken norm is that because of the involvement of TAPA with the community, there's a lot of information that is being shared and benefited by both the parties, the LEAs as well as the community. So in such a way that if you want to go to a government contract, if you need to handle a government contract, and they insist that, are you part of the TAPA program? Are you familiar with TAPA initiatives? Are you TAPA certified? This message is coming from the core reason that the data sharing of what TAPA has got is benefiting the LEAs also, and is also benefiting the industry community. So the joint collaboration with the government through various entities, LEAs is one of them, is very critical, and that is one area where we look into it. The second thing is that, as Tony rightly mentioned today, this morning, there was a meeting with the customs. There's a lot of activities that are going to happen here too. So the more we engage with the law enforcement agencies in the respective markets, the respective countries, there is also a message very clearly written by Tony that we look for working groups in Japan, Korea, and China. So these are the areas where we really want our member communities, our working groups to come forward and work together with us. We can help you, we can guide you, we can direct you how we could do it together, so that we bring this bigger picture to the LEAs and ensure that the data sharing is done in the right way. So for your question, yes, there are other markets, other governments also, where TAPA is heavily involved. In Europe especially, we have a very big engagement with Europol, plus with more than 200 law enforcement agencies across the European continent. So through this database, you're also having the access to look into the sites, the certificate sites, and the data, the criminal data, etc. in Europe. That also will benefit you in your trade and your export and import. I hope this helps.
Thank you so much, Madhu. And then we also have a follow-up question of, is there any restrictions or guidelines in data sharing to TIS? And what security controls in securing these data being shared to TIS, as this will be accessed by different individuals?
I think Tony has really clearly mentioned in the previous Q&As about the sensitivity and the importance of data sharing, how much we share, what we share, and for what benefit we share. So I do not want to dilute that point, but the long story short is that yes, data sharing is critical and important. But when we do that, as we can see in the tool, we could always do not declare the brand or the location if it's going to be very sensitive. But the intention and the purpose here is to report the incident that will help the community and the law enforcement agency through this database, which will help again to protect our secured supply chain. So in terms of data sharing, how much we can share, yes, we follow the data rules and policies and procedures. We're also data compliant. So no worries in terms of sharing the data on the TIS tool. And if there is some concern you have, please write to us. We will be able to help you filter the data and input the right one into the tool so that the data is relevant and captured for the purpose it is meant for. Okay.
And I think it's also fair to say, right, that from the database you just showed, right, the data is anonymized. So again, as per my previous sort of comment, TAP has been going 25 years next year. I've been involved in the IIS now that is since 2002. So I do not know of any incident or event where somebody has really tried to trawl it and find out somebody else's data. If you look at the data, you would be entering the lottery on trying to guess who the company was that had the loss. So it's a very good question. But if you look at the anonymized data, it's very difficult to see who's a loser. So we've taken all of those measures to protect everybody's data. And certainly when you upload the data, it should, we would always suggest that it's sanitized before you even come to TAPA.
Thank you so much, Madhu and Tony, for answering that question and enlightening our audience regarding it. And I believe that we have covered the questions being asked in the chat. If there is anyone else that has any questions, please. Yeah.
We've got a few more minutes left. So look, I wanted to talk about this because it came up during the the discussion. I think Shamsha also covered it, and a couple of the rest of the team there. Verghese talked about the difficulty with reporting to law enforcement, and it is a problem. So, for instance, even with the meeting with customs this morning, they want to know how many of those were actually in a crime database. Look, you have multiple problems. We're trying to report a case. When you have cross-border jurisdiction, if you look at the local police station or wherever you go to report it, they have their own boundary, and in that boundary, they're just responsible for the crimes reported there. If you cannot give an exact location of where the crime took place, nobody wants to put it into their crime figures. And what we learned at Heathrow Airport was that around Heathrow Airport, crimes were reported, but these were not joined up. Even in the Metropolitan Police is probably one of the most mature police forces in the world. Each borough, they call them boroughs, or each area, was acting on their own accord. So it wasn't until TAPA went there with the helicopter view that they suddenly realised, right, that there were crimes all over the place. So that's the problem, right? So the cross-border jurisdiction. So imagine inside, India, China, UK, Europe, everyone is looking after their own area. Now, think of it, when you have a cross-border loss, so, the origin could be Hong Kong, destination could be Europe. If that's gone missing somewhere, unless you can actually show where the incident occurred, no one's going to take that. So no one's going to give you a crime report. You won't have a crime report number. And of course, then the insurance companies are saying, get me a crime report number. But they're not going to take that. And also the other thing is, the guest was alluding to, is that you go to some police and they will just classify it as a civil case. They would say, sorry, it's a dispute between you and the loser, go and take it to the civil court. So there are very, very difficult circumstances there. So what does TAPA do? TAPA puts that into a database. So if you go to law enforcement, there is no cargo crime in some police jurisdictions. They won't accept them. However, TAPA accepts it. So from your risk management process, it won't get it out of the local police stats, but you'll get it inside the TAPA database. And that's why CTPAT Customs, when you're doing your CTPAT audits, etc., US Customs say, which databases are you using to do your crime risk analysis? And of course, hey, you can talk and say, well, we use the TAPA database, right? It's 228,000 incidents in it, which we take into account. So those are some of the key things, and you're always going to have challenges with police. And what TAPA can do is where you do have a trend in terms of losses, etc. Come to TAPA, we will write out, see if any other members have got problems, and we go there as TAPA, not as individual companies. And that's the value add that we can provide.
Thank you so much, Tony, for your message, and Marks as well. And with that, we'd gladly to thank our attendees and for being here with us today, as well as our incredible speakers for sharing their expertise, the Tapa APAC team for making this possible. So let us work together and help the supply chain's resilience by adding any data that you may have related to cargo crime incidents and sharing it with the TIS database. And together we can build a strong collaborative database that helps all of us eventually in the long run. And it helps to build the supply chain more resilient for all of us. On behalf of the TAPA team, I thank you and have a great afternoon ahead.